Hello, and welcome to my spoiler review for Scream 5. We can finally talk about it, and there's so much to talk about. Pretty shocking stuff, don't you think? All right, so to me, the things that this entry will always be known for are killing Dewey. No! I'm so upset. And having the killers be toxic fans. I know, Hollywood fires back. Maybe Hollywood's like, whoa, Scream franchise, what are you doing? We already are fighting with these people enough. I thought it was very clever, although I thought there was a missed opportunity to make it a little bit more of a balanced situation. We're going to talk about that. But first, we got to start with Dewey. And they mention when they're talking about requels, when Jasmine Savoy Brown's character is talking about requels, we're going to talk about her too. I loved her character. She says even Star Wars has done requels. And I thought that was particularly funny because I had the same experience with The Force Awakens as I did here. And that's when I was watching The Force Awakens. As soon as Harrison Ford stepped out on that bridge approaching Kylo Ren, I was like, don't you do it. Don't you kill him, J.J. Abrams. I don't care what Harrison Ford said. And sure enough, they killed him. And here, about a third of the way into the movie, I started to get nervous. And I was like, okay, Scream 5, you can kill anybody you want in this movie, but Dewey. And then they killed Dewey. I was like, man. And he was distracted by a call from Gale. Exes, man. Exes, right? I can't believe that's the way he went out. That sucks. You would think, part of me was like, why didn't you silence your phone before you went after a killer? But that maybe someone would be calling you with important information. So that sucks. It sucked. And I thought it was very true to life. Very strong performance from David Arquette throughout the film. While Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox are pretty much sidelined, but maybe that's because they have the potential still to come back while this is Dewey's last ride. Again, such a great performance. I love that he ended up pegging Jack Quaid immediately, where he's like, okay, first let's start, where's this guy coming from? And Jack Quaid even gave him credit for that later in the movie. I thought that was fantastic. I like the fact that Dewey, a very, very funny character, I think it's wonderful that this franchise has always maintained his dignity. I thought it was very touching that he still watched Gale's show every morning. And then he was texting her, and then he was trying to be like, do I put a smiley face? And he's like, no, maybe that's not appropriate under the circumstances. I thought that stuff was great. And I think that the history between them was really touching. Of course, which was mirrored real life. They got married in real life and are divorced. So I thought that stuff was all really well done. I would have loved to have explored it more, quite frankly. And then I love that Dewey changed his mind and he decides to help out and he rocks the hip holster. I mean, it was just so great. And then I think we all were like, why are you going back for the killer? Because he's like, I didn't do 2 shots to the head. And you're like, next time, Dewey. But Melissa Barrera's character says, who cares? And at least he went out on a great line where he said, I care. And then the elevator doors closed. Earlier he was like, I've been stabbed 9 times. I don't want to get stabbed anymore. It's great stuff. It was really, really good. And at least it was a good death. It was a drawn out death. He really got sliced and diced. It was hard to watch because I love the character so much, but that's as it should be. Now, for the killers, let's talk about the killers. Jack Quaid, the boyfriend of Melissa Barrera's character, kind of mirroring the Billy Loomis situation. And speaking of that, I thought he did the switch from good guy to bad guy really well. Jack Quaid, when he was in that hiding in the closet and he got shot in the leg, I believed that he was a good guy right up until he went for the gun or the knife. Then we both reach for the gun, a little Chicago there, the musical. But anyway, he did a great job. The script did keep me guessing. When she was like wondering, when you thought she might not untie her sister, I too was like, I'm not sure. It was great. So kudos to the script for pulling that off. But he did that switch really, really well. And I liked his character up until then. He's very relatable, watching YouTube videos, eating pizza. It was great. It was really fun. Watching Netflix, he was a cool guy. And then, of course, his co-conspirator, his co-killer, was Mikey Madison's Amber. And you know where? I was wondering where I saw her before. She was one of the Manson killers in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where she also got beat up and ran around all burned up and messed up. So I was like, wow, Mikey Madison's developing a specialty. So apparently, I don't quite remember this detail because it was happening all so quickly, but I believe they met on a Stab Reddit board because Amber lived in Stu's old house. So she made her an instant fan, and then she kind of like joined forces with Jack Quaid's character, and they felt that they really didn't like the way the Stab franchise had evolved within the world of the movie. And I thought it was funny. They showed the last stab was like nothing like it. People had superpowers. I thought that was great. And that they were like, let's come up with better source material. And so that'll be what the next Stab movie is based on. I thought that was very clever. They're like, we know better than Hollywood. Let's get involved. And I thought it was really ripped from the headlines with what's going on right now. Very meta, very clever, but also very aggressive. So I am wondering how this will play out. I wasn't even sure how I felt about it when it first unfolded before me. I was like, whoa, what are you saying? I think it would have been better, and perhaps will be a little bit better received with some people, if they'd had a good fan representing the good side of fandom to balance out and maybe work against the bad side, right? You know, maybe represented more with giving more scenes to Savoy Brown's character. You know, maybe that'll be something they do in Scream 6. But I think maybe balancing that out instead of making, I think in the third act, it seemed like the movie was very anti-fan, and I think, of course, never want to be that way. So I would have preferred a little bit more of a debate there. But it was very clever. All right, so the opening scene, which of course are iconic for Scream movies, you got to get this one right, and I thought that they did. The house, so well lit. You can really tell a Scream movie. They do a great job lighting the house and the trees around it. You're like, it's gorgeous. It's Architectural Digest for horror movies. Suburban Architectural Digest. But I thought that was great. And then I loved when Ghostface first called, he almost sounded like a regular guy, and I love the way he tricked Jenna Ortega's character into talking, teasing her and saying, oh, I'm in your mom's group and I shouldn't really be telling you this, but she's talked about you and I may be your mom's potential boyfriend. Very well done, very clever. And I thought that was smart. And it was funny to hear the ghost voice guy being like a regular guy again. And then also the conversation about horror films and that Jenna Ortega's character liked more highbrow horror like The Babadook, which is a great movie. And of course, Ghostface saying, oh, no, slasher movies are where it's at. And that was great. And then I thought a huge surprise, of course, was that she did not die. That she did not die. At first, when they said that they called her sister up and said she wasn't dead, I was like, is this a trick? And, Dylan Minnette, his character, sounded a little suspicious on the phone. But no, she didn't die. And she got to have two great scenes. Some of the dramatic scenes with her sister were nice, of course, but this is a Scream movie. So I'm, of course, talking about her escape from the hospital. And I thought, going around in the wheelchair. And I thought that Ortega did a wonderful job selling the pain of, not being transportation ready and, her wounds reopening as she tried to wheel herself away. I thought that was fantastic. And they did it in a believable way, instead of you being like, that would never happen. She'd never be able to get away. I thought it was really, really good. Now, as for the kills, they had a lot of kills in this movie, but my favorite, Dewey, was, of course, the most devastating. But my favorite kill was, of course, the very complex Judy and Wes scenario. Judy Hicks and, of course, her son, Wes. I love the Psycho reference, and they did a gender flip on it, that it was Wes in the shower. I thought that was great and tastefully done, just like the original Psycho. And also, speaking of references, the references to Judy's lemon bars, my whole audience reacted to that, as I talked about in my interview with Judy Hicks, Marley Shelton. And then I thought it was really good the way they ratcheted up the tension with the mom, with Judy driving back to save her son. She went to run an errand to pick up dinner, and she flips on the siren, does a really killer U-turn. And I was totally shocked when Ghostface stepped out of the shrubs and killed her as she was running for the front door. And then I thought maybe Wes would make it and he was going to find his mom. But instead, they had that really excruciating, drawn-out scene with him going around the house and in the kitchen, where any moment you thought Ghostface was going to pop out. And they did a great job keeping that going. I was like, where's Ghostface? And then finally he came out, and I thought Wes was going to reach that stun gun. That like electric thing, but no, and the knife went right through the neck. That was brutal. That was really well done. That was an incredible scenario from top to bottom. And all done during the day, by the way, which is a Scream hallmark. During the day, with the sun shining, and they just did a fabulous job. Now, as for my favorite new characters, as I said in my non-spoiler review, it's the twins. But here I can go into a little more detail. And it's revealed that they're the niece and nephew of Randy Meeks. And their media room, fittingly, is an homage to him. I thought that was great. And of course, their mother is Heather Matarazzo, who's played the character in the past, Randy's sister. I'd love to know who their dad is. I hope maybe in Scream 6, because they survived. I'm so happy they survived. That maybe in Scream 6, we can meet more of their family and they can maybe help go center stage. Mason Gooding is becoming excellent as a good guy jock. He plays the same role in Love, Victor, and he's very good there. And I thought he had some really funny moments here. He's very, Cuba Gooding's junior son, he's very good at comedy. I loved when he told his girlfriend he didn't want to go upstairs, even though she was promising to finally, go all the way with him. But he's like, you could be the killer. That was great. And I thought it was very clever with the find my location on the phone. That's how the killer was tracking him. But I'm so glad he didn't die. I was so happy when they both got loaded into twin ambulances. And then as for Savoy Brown, this actress, I'm not familiar with her until now, but a number of you brought up that she's in Yellow Jackets, and I watched Yellow Jackets episode 1 last night. Damn it, now I have to pay for Showtime to watch the rest of it. And I thought so far she was very promising. And she plays an LGBT character on Yellow Jackets and here as well. And she's actually a member of the LGBT community in real life, and she's doing a fabulous job representing in a way that's like not tokenism, but really great, organic, cool characters. She was so cool here. She's the new Randy, and she killed it with her exposition, the way she talked about the requel and stuff like that. And she was so funny at the party with the movie. She took over for Jamie Kennedy, and she did a great job doing that. She was also very scary in the basement with Amber, being like, that was a test, Amber. You never go into the basement by yourself. She was talking to the killer. Amber was one of the killers. But, for a moment there, you weren't sure if maybe it was Savoy Brown. And she did that. She sold that perfectly. But her best moment by far was when she was on the sofa and she had said, I'm going to, get high, watch this movie some more, and maybe make out with this chick at the other end of the sofa. And then when she did got the, kind of like the nod to the girl to come over. It was so perfect and so cool. And the girl instantly jumped up and came over. It was great. My whole audience laughed because it was just so cool. It was like so cool. She was great. Now, the other big surprise that the movie has is that Melissa Barrera is the secret daughter of Billy Loomis, aka Skeet Ulrich. This is a fantastic idea, but extremely poorly executed. I think this is what keeps the movie from being great. Maybe they had too many ideas here, but you got to have a lot of red herrings to keep people guessing. But first of all, Barrera doesn't look anything like Skeet Ulrich, which is really underscored by the fact that he's standing next to her all the time. That was mind-boggling, though. They actually had Skeet Ulrich film those scenes, and the way they de-aged him, he looked like he stepped right out of the first Scream. I think that was just incredible. It's amazing how far VFX have come so quickly. But they didn't do anything with this. They didn't do anything with it. She has that line at the end where she's like, don't try to outsmart the daughter of a serial killer, right? And she does really go to town stabbing Jack Quaid. But she didn't really use that in the serial killer smarts to outsmart the killers, right? Loomis, I don't think, helped her out too much during the movie. I mean, he did give her the nod to where the knife was under the curtains, but that's not really, you don't really need to be a serial killer for that. I mean, I think it's a hard thing to pull off. I will say that. I mean, I'm not even sure how they could have pulled it off, but I just know that they didn't. I mean, if you're going to be like, oh, a serial killer working for the good guys, that's a great idea. But they didn't really do it. I mean, they had the thing about, oh, don't take your meds, you'll see your father less. It just didn't work. But I liked it. It was a good idea. It just didn't work. So they had two great options to counter the killers, good fans and a serial killer working on the good side, and they didn't really use either of them. So maybe Scream 6. I would like to see another Scream, quite frankly. I think that there's a lot of potential here. And then as for Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox, weak sauce, both parts. I mean, one good line where Courtney Cox, Gail Weathers says, you said it always goes back to the original. Well, here's the original. That was funny. But I was surprised at how little they reused. I mean, they stood around for a decent chunk of time while Amber and Jack Quaid, talked about what their plan was, but they didn't really have that much to do. So it would have been nice to focus more on the original trio while we had them. Where have we heard that before? But, it's good that they're in the movie. I think it gives it credibility. But the new cast, some of the new cast was really, really strong. I liked this movie. I thought it was very good. So that's my spoiler review of Scream 5. Very curious to hear your thoughts down below and your reaction to the controversial and aggressive aspects of this movie. So share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.